Hello, my name is Jocelyn Tamez Chavez, and I will be talking about the role of stem cells in therapy. So, what is stem cells therapy? Basically, it promotes the repair response of disease, dysfunctional, or injured tissue using stem cells or derivatives. It is the next chapter in organ transplantation and uses cells instead of donor organs, which are limited in supply. So, stem cells are a class of cells that have the ability to develop in any type of cells, such as red or white blood cells or platelets. And so, basically, red blood transports oxygen to the cells of the body. White blood cells they're critical for fighting infections and diseases, and platelets play an essential role in blood clotting. And so something else that it's important to know about stem cells is that they offer great promises for new medical treatment since they have regenerative roles in stem cells population, but they vary according to their host tissues. And here it's a image of basically how it works. They are harvested from, in this case, from the bone marrow, and then injected to the patient, and then in hope that it would repair any damage or injured tissue. So stem cells practice, or how are they being used? And I have here three examples. It's the neural stem cells. They're important for generation of new neurons in the brain. And another example is the skeletal muscle stem cells. They regenerate after injury. And another example is aging and rejuvenating stem cells. Aging is highly relevant as driver of organismal aging, health, and longevity. This promotes improving the health span of elderly individuals. So what they want to do is hopefully in the future we would be able to live longer. So one of the examples that you could cure this stem cells, it's with leukemia. It is being proven its potential thanks to the blood stem cells, which treat blood diseases. In this case, leukemia, and therapy that saved life of thousands of children with leukemia. And just a quick recap of what it is, leukemia. That's basically a cancer of blood forming tissues hindering the body's ability to fight infection. And so here we can see in the image how normal blood cells would look like, and then with leukemia how they look like. And the stem cells transplant most of the time are effective in curing leukemia. And here we have one of the charts that shows that. It shows a change in 5 years time range of those that have been surviving leukemia thanks to the stem cell. So I wanted to get a little more deep in bone marrow transplant. This is a common procedure that infuses healthy blood forming stem cells into damaged or injured bodies. So since we were previously talking about leukemia, one of the transplants used, again, it's bone marrow. So, and what it is basically a spongy tissue found inside larger bones. In a surgical procedure, doctors Make several small incisions through the skin over the back of the pelvic bone to drop out the marrow. And here in the image, we can see how they look like the collect stem cells and what is the procedures basically from collecting, processing the chemotherapy, and then the infusion. So what are the sources of the stem cells? So the sources, there's a few sources where they derive from, which is embryonic, umbilical cord, fetal, placenta, and adult stem cells. And here we can see basically what is it that they do, their main roles. And an example of the adult stem cells, for instance, they are presented in adult tissues, but are limited in potential. This is extracted from the bone marrow, the brain and blood, and used for that. But another way to characterize the sources, it's by totipotent stem cells, which has the ability to differentiate into any type of cells in the body. And secondly, pluripotent stem cells, which are the embryonic stem cells and fetal stem cells. Those are two good examples of what pluripotent is. Multipotent stem cells have the ability to differentiate into a limited number of specialized cells type. And oligopotent stem cells have the ability to differentiate into just a few type of cells, but they are also important. And finally, unipotent stem cells. They have unlimited reproductive capabilities, but can only differentiate into a single type of cells or tissue. So I wanted to talk about the state of research. There's been continued research by scientists and experts to, in the future, benefit from these stem cells in not just what it's been doing right now. For like one of the examples that we have given, it's leukemia. There are also other ones that they've been already helping on, but one of the ones that they've been trying to in the future is, for instance, the spinal cord, the Alzheimer, arthritis, Parkinson. They're really trying to find a way to be able to use this in those diseases. So they're currently examining the use of stem cells to regenerate damaged or diseased tissues in many conditions, but one of them, or a few of those, are those listed below: the autism, type A diabetes, stroke, traumatic brain injury, and so on. So here's a basic graph of how much they're being using the stem cells for clinical trials or research just globally. And here we have in the United States, it's about 41%. So ethical issues. There are some ethical and political controversy about, in particular, human embryonic stem cells. And that is because they are obtained from early stage embryos. And well, those are a group of cells that form when a woman's egg is fertilized with a man's sperm in an in vitro fertilization clinic. And so the reason why there is an ethical issue is because either one supports embryonic stem cells research and accepts resulting embryo destruction, or one opposes embryonic stem cell research and accepts that the potential benefits of this research will be foregone. But in the United States, there is actually federal funding is restricted in the US, so they have to use most of the time mouse models instead. And so what the Senate did, they passed the first bill, 6337, and what that does is that it makes legal for federal government to spend federal money, but only for those embryos leftovers from in vitro fertilization, only in those occasions. And the second bill makes it illegal to create, to grow, and abort fetuses for research purposes. And so, of course, it is a controversy by moral principles because, again, an embryo has to be destroyed. And so this is why the Senate passed that first bill in the US in order to avoid the destruction for these purposes of scientific researches. So what are the cons about stem cell? Many other applications, stem cells are yet to be proven in clinical trials and should be considered highly experimental. Again, it's being used already for years, but there is still a lot of diseases and a lot of things that they need to be worked on. And so it could be risk for your health. And another thing about it is that when it's out of your pocket, it could be somewhat expensive, since most of the insurance companies or health programs from the government don't cover this type of treatments. And as we had mentioned before, the embryonic stem cells and iPS cells, there are not too good candidates to be used directly as treatment if not properly directed. These stem cells may overgrow and cause tumors when injected into the patient. So again, it could be high risk. Of course, it's something that needs to be really, really thought through and have the proper procedures. And finally, one of the things is this takes time. This is a lengthy process. Since it takes a lot of, during this process, scientists may discover that an approach that seems promises in the lab does not work in animals, or that an approach that works in animals don't work in humans. So for all this, it takes a long time for them to do the discoveries. So I just wanted to go ahead and finish with a quick summary of what stem cells are. And so what they do, they have several unique properties that separate them from other cells. They do promise us to understand and treat the range of diseases, injuries, and other health conditions. And here are some additional references that I have used. Thank you for your time.